record. Right, so I've hit the record button now because the things we mentioned before was formalities, right? So if we can get down into lesson 14, as I do this, there's one thing I wanted to mention to you all again, which is, I guess once you are finished next month, the 7th of next month, if anyone has any ambition to move on to the NEBOSH diploma, we do have some enrollment taking place, right? So you can probably contact us for that. We also have the process safety courses that are going to start off. There's a full one now, but there's going to be another one on April the 25th, right? A short course. I think Rudy and these guys have it. BP or someone would have done it for you all already, right? So I know after the NEBOSH level 3, then before I forget, because I will forget to tell you this at the end, that if you want to move on to career and safety, we have the world-renowned NEBOSH diploma, at least access to it anyway, full classes, and you can get it done in 18 months, right? I would have just finished my tutorial with a class that finishes around 12 today, right? But keep it to the back of your mind, those of us who want to make a career out of this anyway. If you already have the process safety, right, NEBOSH diploma is currently enrolling, right? In fact, there are about 2 classes. There's one in the evening and there's one on a Saturday, right? So I guess whichever one suits you best, right? So we would have done all of this last week, immediate and root causes. So there's no need to go back to that. Just remember, I mean, the learning outcome there would have been that immediate causes are normally attributed to, if you remember this from last week, unsafe acts and unsafe conditions. And root causes are often due to management, but it could also be the weather, it could be the environment, it could be like a manufacturer, it could be like a natural disaster then, right? So this course though, and following the bird and laughter theory would have sort of made you think it was the manager's fault, but in reality, it may be a manufacturing defect or something, right? So there are other theories out there. None of these theories was mentioned in your book. I did it to tell you about the diploma. And these are, well, not the diploma, but these, it have more to safety than what you come across level 3. And where it came from, we had sort of tried to give it its proper name, right? The bird and laughter theory. All of this is different accident causation theory. This one is called the multiple causation theory. The point is accidents have more than one cause, and your book says it has immediate and root causes, right? But we left one slide out here, if I could go back to that, which was if you have to interview a witness. Now, normally, again, this is another NEBOSH course. I also have this course running, NEBOSH Incident Investigation. I probably think you all may have seen it being advertised or so. It's probably page 12 around it. They have a separate certificate on this here, and it's no exam. That course has a accident that you look at on a video, and you have to just give the immediate and the root causes. So some of this is around page 14, page 15. If to be honest with you, I would like to start it back at page 15. Right? And there's something they call the level of investigation. Now, the level of investigation is actually something that is on HSG 245. Just watch your book for this one, right? Watch your book for that one. So in HSG 245, they give you like different degrees of investigation then, right? They give something minor happened, maybe like a tool fell, nobody was injured, but maybe it had the potential to do so, but it's not a big tool, maybe just something small. You can't do to the bottom of page 15, you can't do what is called a minimal level of investigation, right? So the thing then is like the level of investigation is determined by the risk then. In other words, the higher the risk, the more higher the order of control. But what I wanted to see is that I did not make up this rating scale on page 15. The health and safety executive did. So they have 4 categories of inspection. They have minimal, low, medium, and high, and who should be involved in different levels of the investigation. So low would be like a line manager. Let's just go to the extreme. A high level of investigation, probably meaning that there would have been serious injury and God forbid death. I am not aware if you all know that there was a death in Trinidad this week. Anybody aware of that? A work-related death with an excavator, right? So yeah, if you're aware of it. So just to tell you that, imagine that. I mean, like, I was going to post it, right? I was going to post it up, right? And I just said I'm gonna leave it because sometimes, we can never tell the families behind that anyway. But that's like why we do what we do. I know some people don't see that sometimes, but that's why you do what you do, right? That at the end of the day, if you look at the details of how that person got crushed, it's really simple and really it could have been avoided then, right? It could have been 100% avoided anyway. So, yes, we're talking about the coronavirus, but yeah, a lack of safety too does kill, right? And it have safety related deaths. Some of it you see them on the news, or some of it you don't, because I remember talking about some in class that you all seem to have no idea about. Deaths happen every year, as much as we talk about the virus and other viruses too, malaria and other ailments like cancers and whatever have you. But safety too does kill. A lack of safety then does kill as well, right? So just to kind of keep those things in the back of your mind, if something is a death, you need what is called a high level of investigation. Senior managers will have to be there. You'll have to take them out of their meeting. OSHA will be there in Trinidad, and the UK HSC will be there. Safety reps, the union, the police will be there too. Firemen will be there too. Anybody who had a part in rescuing, right, would be in that investigation. So that's the part of safety that I don't like at all. I love the teaching part of safety, right? I know I shared with you all before that I had some deaths in the companies that I was associated with, right? I had some really kind of gruesome stories anyway. I suppose everybody in safety, if you're long enough, I know a lot of other people in safety, if they're long enough, they know, when they talk to them, they know somebody that passed away as well in, or maybe for a lack of safety anyway, right? So that's the bottom line there. So basic investigation procedure. This is what we covered last week. This is on page 16. Gather factual information about the event, which is gathering information. We did that piece last week. And what I want to jot down to here, they have, for some strange reason, highlighted interviewing techniques as the subject of past paper questions. Like what is the technique in interviewing a witness, right? So I have it on this slide. I think this is the last thing we have, and then we finish, right? So so the witness interview techniques, again, the other course NEBOSH have the sort of like 2-day certificate. Is a 2-day incident investigation certificate, but the cert is good for life. Is focusing on this, is like focusing on all of these techniques anyway. So what do? They say interview as soon as possible. You need to explain the purpose of the interview to the interviewee. The interviewee or the witness then is somebody who may have seen the accident, right? They may not have been a part of it. Sometimes they are though. I don't know if you know that. Sometimes the witnesses may be a part and parcel of what happened, right? Like a supervisor who told you to walk this way, etc., right? So you have to be very careful in that. If the person is like a bystander, fine. But if a person wasn't a part of it or have a part to play in an accident, you need to let them know that their job then is not going to be on the line. Or hopefully, I mean, we're talking with this about with a UK perspective. A Trinidad perspective, maybe that they will be fired. But I'm talking about this from the UK perspective, that you need to tell them that the purpose of the investigation is to find the cause and not to attribute blame, right? I'm saying this, and I know it's so different in Trinidad and in the Caribbean anyway, right? But I'll stop that one there, right? You need to establish who, when, where, what, and how type questions. Use open questioning. Now, what open questioning is, it is where you get the person to open up and talk, right? An open question is one that does not have a yes and no answer for. I'll say that again. An open question is one that does not have a yes and no question for. You see, if you ask them, did you see the accident? right? A lot of people know that if this thing is a death or a dangerous occurrence or a serious injury, then it could end up in court, right? And some people just don't like to go to court. So if you tell them, did you witness the accident? If you give them the option to say no, a lot of people will say no. But if you come in and ask them something like, who else was there? And I guess the minute they say Frank was there, it kind of means that they were there too, right? So the who, what, where, how, and what type questions are really meant to get them to open up and talk, as opposed to giving them the chance to say no, right? Many years ago, when I was 19 years, right, I was working in a petrotrin sort of process station. There was a tank on the station. There was an oil tank. There was a set of pumps and connecting valves that you had to operate. I had known it pretty well. I probably can't remember it now anyway. But it was in, I guess those of us who from South Side, there was a place called Forest Reserve. It's a fields road you take and you can come out point 410. You can come out where they call it Dunlop roundabout anyway, right? In point 410. But it's a fields road. And if anybody know where I'm talking about, it's immediately after a place they call Phantom Gate, right? Phantom Gate, because there were rumors of seeing strange figures. I think I've seen to have lost you all a bit, right? I don't know if you're still there. Yeah, they had rumors then in the oil field that there were ghosts in this particular station. Anyway, I was there working alone, and a van from Tucker came and crashed over a bridge and fell into the river. It was a river anyway there, but it was held up by one piece of pipe. A pipe was sticking up from the river. Anyway, a long story short is that I was 19 years old. I wasn't in safety yet, just out of school anyway. One of my first jobs anyway, with a contractor. And I remember the Tucker people came by and they asked me if I saw what happened. And I told them no. I told them no. And they actually, but I think they were happy for that. At least the workers who were speeding, none of them were injured or killed in any way. I mean, they broke the glass, right? The van was facing downwards into the river. It's a pipe was holding it up. It seems like a freak story talking about it now anyway. But they broke the glass. I don't know why they break the glass, but they broke the glass. I guess it couldn't come down or whatever. It couldn't come down, but they broke the glass and they came through the windows of the van, right? But they like every time they passed it, like they would blow horn for me because plus at that point in time I didn't have a car. You had to actually hop and drop, as they would say. You kind of had to get a car or a van going through the fields road to get a drop to that station. But they would always pick me up, and I think they were happy because I didn't sell them out then. But the thing is, it's not about selling them out. I just didn't want to have nothing to do with talking to investigators. I just didn't want to have nothing to do with that. They asked me if I saw anything. I said no, right? So that's what I'm saying, that you should never ask the yes or no question, because if you give somebody a chance to say yes or no, by the way, that was when I was 19 years old, so please do not do that. I just say that was when I was now out in the field. I didn't even know about safety yet, right? So interview, don't interrogate. Don't ask why type questions, which is why did you do that? Why were you speeding? Why did you look where you were going, right? Don't interrupt and put words in the interviewee's mouth. Now, you know that the police conduct interviews as well, but the nature of their interviews are different to safety interviews. The police normally will do that. That's a part of their technique. They will tell you then, that you saw the man. You are the one that held the weed, right, in excess quantities or whatever have you, right? So they will tell you, because that's a strategy that the police use to intimidate you. But in safety, we do not interrupt the interview and say, you don't interrupt the person and say, you saw the man speeding and you walk in front of the forklift, right? You don't do that, and you don't stop the interview and assume then in a safety interview, right? They say human beings have 2 ears and 1 mouth. So the technique is that you have to do more listening and less talking. You have to do twice as much listening. The interviewer, you ask your question and you just listen to what the person say, right? You ask them, who else was there, right? Where was the driver going? And you just listen then, right? Establish a rapport. Again, I have done these. I told you about that. And I know some of you all in safety, so you all may have done it too. A rapport is very important. The rapport is, the word rapport means how you get along with the person. I have had good and bad examples of it, but you know, like the bad ones, if you cannot establish a rapport, you do not get any information, right? So a rapport is you're trying to talk to the person and find some kind of common ground, right? If you can find a common ground with the person would open up and talk to you more than, right? So like in time past, it has been things like schools that you went to. If you went to the same school. Up to Friday, I had a guy in my office, Daryl is his name. And when he told me his age and where he was from, he's about my age. He's in his 40s, anyway, early 40s. And when he told me he was from Rancho, if you know where Rancho is, right? It's deep South Trinidad. I automatically asked him if he had gone to Siparia Senior Comprehensive. But the reason is that Siparia Senior Comprehensive is like the only school down there. And when he said yes, we started to talk about that. And like, what year were you there? And the year he was there was the year I was there as well, right? So, once you could find a common ground, fine. It's like you have the person. And this was somebody signing up for, actually, he was actually thinking about the same incident investigation course. So, no, you could find a common ground now. In this case, was in the means of getting a customer, getting a student then, right? So once you can establish a common ground, you could probably convince the person more. But if the person is from a different school and, the worst thing could happen is that if you and the person didn't hit it off, right, then they can actually be an obstacle then to the interview technique anyway, right? So initially the line manager should interview, best to carry out the interview at the scene of the accident because it enhances recall. Witnesses can point to things rather than have to think about them and describe them later. Witness information is more accurate at the scene, right? Concluded the interview, repeat the witness account to the interviewee. It allows the witness to hear his or her account and add any details previously omitted or expand on some points in order to make them clearer. When the investigator and the witness are both satisfied that the true account has been given, the interview should be concluded on a positive note. This is best achieved by discussing any ideas the witness might have regarding prevention of a similar occurrence, right? So I wish I had more time, but the course, like I said, there are other courses that covers this. If anybody want to get into, getting this accident investigation report writing, I think this book fairly much left some things out, and I think that is smart on NEBOSH part so that they leave something for another course anyway, right? But there are a lot of nitty-gritty stuff that I think would have been left out. Nonetheless, though, I think that covers the part about, interviewing the witness anyway. So I have to change the PowerPoint. This is now going into PowerPoint 15, and it's going to take up from page 21 now, right? So let us change that PowerPoint there. Please let me know when you are seeing the new PowerPoint, right? So it should come up on your screen as lesson 15. This is our last lesson. Now, next week, Saturday is Easter Saturday, but I still want to have class. I think we should use that Saturday. Isn't that the Saturday before your exam? I think we should use that Saturday just to trash out again some exam techniques, right? Which you already know. I mean, it's a passage and you have to give them 10 points or 10 points, but maybe by doing one so fresh next week, Saturday, the 3rd, right? If you all have not made any Tobago plans or any plans, the class is not long anyway. I know some people have made, if you're making the Tobago plans, fine. I mean, you have to go anyway. But for those who are here then anyway, I would probably want to focus on just like exam techniques next week, Saturday, but we are finished. This lesson is going to finish in the next half an hour. So we may be finished a bit early today at the same time, right? So this is on page 21 of chapter 4. 21. Some of it is going to be on 24. Right? We are some of, I mean, all 23, I think, but it only have one thought pattern in these things. And when I come to it, I'll show you, right? And page 24 only have one thing you need to know. So page 24 has some good stuff, but again, it's just one page, isn't it? It's just 24, 25. When you turn it, it's finished right there. And that's the end of the course. We already did auditing. Auditing ends off the course, I believe, but we already did auditing anyway. So it's just this piece we have to finish off. So the first piece to see here, I think you all already know it, which is a law. There's a law in the UK. I mentioned it last week for you, well, I guess for you all. I know I mentioned it last week, right? I know I mentioned RIDDOR last week. It's on page 24 though, just trying to kind of compare them back and forth for you all. That it stands for the Reporting of Injuries, Diseases and Dangerous Occurrence Regulation 2013. And I know we covered this already, but I'll say it again. So what it is, there's a law in the UK that say that they have to report then the different words that line up to the RIDDOR, right? Injuries, diseases, and dangerous occurrences. Now, there's a law in Trinidad for that as well, but what you need to appreciate here is that this is a separate law, right? It almost seemed to have like a separate law then for reporting injuries alone, right? For reporting alone then. It's not implied then, or it's not in the HSW Act alone, but there's a separate law for it, right? So the slide I have here would kind of capture some of the main points anyway, if you want to take it from the slides. So you have a responsible person from this slide. If you read through, you'll find all of these words, but I have to cast my eyes straight, and then you'll have to turn back, and that's going to cost me a little bit of time for to find the exact words, right? Remember the PowerPoint would have been what we would have extracted from the lesson anyway to make it into a lecturing session, right? But you'll have to read. I try to see my eyes could catch the word responsible person, right? But these are the things you have to say. You have to say a responsible person must report what are called RIDDOR events to the HSE, right? Now, just to refresh your memory there, the Health and Safety Executive, it's, well, as how we say HSE in Trinidad, right? It's different to how they think of the HSE. The HSE is the Health and Safety Executive. You have a head office in London anyway. So when they say the Health and Safety, see that a visitor, yeah. I have a guy doing some cupboard work downstairs by me there, so he just came in with some stuff, right? So the responsible person must report RIDDOR events, and this means that the call, when they say report, there's a real call then, right? That they pick up the phone and call. You are going to call the head office in London, Health and Safety Executive. You can take this down, right? And it's a particular department you have to try to get onto. The department is known as the Incident Call Center. If I get some time, I'll try to look for that in your book. But as you read, you will come across it. It's actually called the ICC for short. The Incident Call Center. I'll have to skim through the book to see if I see it, right? If you see it before, you can let me know. But as you read your book and stuff, when you see it, you'll know what I was talking about, right? So it's a phone number. You can get it from Google, the Health and Safety Executive number. Of course, in Trinidad, we would call OSHA, but again, this is what we studied. This is a UK-based course. So they call up the HSE, the responsible person, and they'll have to ask to talk to, could you transfer me to the ICC branch, which would be like a department inside of that building in London, right? The responsible person here does not have to be the safety. The responsible person could just be, as the word say, a responsible person. So this could be a manager, a director. And to be honest with you, just to be honest with you, most of the times the person calling the HSE is really like a manager, right? You could probably just think about Trinidad for that. Like if an accident was to happen in a company, most companies don't allow the safety to call OSHA, right? You have to report it to like your manager, and then your manager will be able to, your manager then will call OSHA and talk to OSHA, right? So a lot of companies, they don't give the safety person then that responsibility to talk to the, but to talk to OSHA or to talk to the HSE, right? So an injury or dangerous occurrence must be reported by the quickest practicable means to the enforcing authority, and a report must be sent within 10 days or so. Now, I'll tell you why I said or so, because it's based on the event. Sometimes you have more days, some days, sometimes you have less days, right? So again, I'm not too sure how much detail. I'm not seeing that level of detail in your textbook, which means for the level 3, it may not be needed fully in that detail, but the days could vary. It actually could go from 7, 10 to 15 days. In short, if you want me just to tell you on this slide, like if it is a dead, then you may have up to 7 days. You have less days there, right? And let's just try to understand what this is saying, right? Because if you read it fast, you'll miss some stuff. Now, what we're saying is that the responsible person have to call. So if you see that by the quickest practicable means to the health and safety executive. But here, the report, it is the report. You're taking 10 days to report. Sorry, you're taking 10 days to call them. I mean, God forbid a death. Remember, you had to call the police and thing, right? So if it is a death, then yeah, this person have to pick up the phone and call the same day, the same 10 minutes that the person, you know, was pronounced dead, right? But the report, right? The report is a report that follows the phone call. That is what I'm saying. The days tend to vary, right? Sometimes 10 days. If what has happened is like something not very major, right? But it falls under one of the reportable injuries, diseases, and dangerous occurrences. They are less severe things than that. They have up to 15 days, right? I am not seeing, I am looking at it, unless if I think I'm seeing a little bit on page 26. Watch page 26 a bit. I was going to say if I'm not seeing, but I know you have to know this. Thank God for the open book exam, but you don't have to really remember it anymore. Right? The students before would get so confused with this, but you have it right there on page 26. Type of event, fatality. Immediate notification required, page 26. Yes, online or by phone. Written report, 10 days. If you draw down, you'll see the 15 days one, right? Like over 7-day injury, right? Over 7-day injury, they have what is that, right? Over 7-day injury, if you look at under the table, they have the meaning of the asterisk. Must be notified within 15 days of the incident. Over 3-day injuries are recordable, but not reportable, right? So some things can be recorded, and that is page 27. There's a form you have to record it on, but you get the point that the more severe, you have like 10 days. That's why I put my 10 days here. You do have 7 days. I didn't see nothing about 7 days in your book. So I'm glad, right? I am not going to mention that. I did put 10 days here because I know this is level 3. But bear in mind then something that's not a fatality, not too severe, but maybe it falls under a RIDDOR event. We'll talk about that just now. You have up to 15 days to send a written report, right? So be careful. If they ask anything for exam, just go back to page 26. If they say, you know, like something about RIDDOR, they have never brought any questions on this, but you know, the open book exam, this makes it a year now of testing. They would have had about maybe 7 or maybe about 6 or 7 exams that have gone so far, right? But you have your book, right? The other thing I want to show you from this same slide here, without going further, is that The form, you hear me say a form just now, there's a form. The form is known as F2508. You have an extract of it on page 27. However, not to draw you with too much new information, that form you're looking at there is a subsidiary form. I'll explain that now, right? The report they're talking about to be sent is on a form you have to fill out. The form in the UK is known as F2508, but hear me with this one. You have different variations of the form. So like if it's an injury, you have to use F2508 IE. See if you're seeing that on the bottom of page 27. In other words, then there's a different form for injuries, there's a different form for diseases, there's a different form for dangerous occurrence. So it depends on what you reported. These forms, even today, they are free to download from Google from Trinidad. If you wanted to see a form, well, you have it in your book. I mean, but should I say if you want to use a form, if you want to use one of these forms, so maybe I don't know why you don't want to do that anyway, but I guess every company, if it's a British company, then like BP or Shell or whatever, if they want to use one of these forms, fine. You could get it. You, after the class, could just go to Google and put F2508 IE form. There's actually one called F2508A. Anyway, once you put F2508, all the different variations will come up as to what you want to report, right? So I just want to interject here that Trinidad and Tobago also have a form, and the form is known as Form 3, in case you don't know. Of course, I know we are living and working in Trinidad, and Form 3 is also free to get from Google or from the Ministry of Labor website. But you could just put Form 3, Trinidad and Tobago accident reporting form, and you'll be able to download it. Just be careful though, right? If we have any new safeties here, that don't just go and report everything in your company, because as I was saying before, make sure that the responsible person is you, because in most companies, the responsible person to report to, I say in OSHA now, right? The responsible person to report to OSHA is not the safety. That sounds contradictory, and it is, but that's what the companies wanted, right? In other words, then, they don't want you telling OSHA anything about them. If anybody have to say anything, it has to be from management, right? So I don't know if you know that a lot of companies have that. Well, I guess what's the word to say? Is it, I guess, an unsaid rule? Some companies do allow you to report to OSHA, right? But a lot of companies don't like their reputation being tarnished. So if there's any reporting to do, then it's the managers that have to make that call, and not really the safety, right? Of course, if something is unsafe, you can't report it. But the point I'm trying to say here, I guess, to summarize this, I think I staying up on this, and I said it. The point I'm trying to say is follow your line of authority there. Like if you know there was somebody over you, report it to them, right? Follow your line of authority in your company to report to OSHA, right? If it's something you want to report, but they report in lines that said you reported to your supervisor, fine, you do that, and the supervisor reported to the manager. You do what you have in your job description then, right? To be safe, right? So let's move on, right? If a personal injury results in, well, I think they did this in the book, 3 or more days absence, but does not fall into the category of major, a written report is just required, which is you're reporting it, but you're not really going to, or you're recording it, but you're not really reporting it to the enforcing authority, right? Occupational diseases must be reported as soon as practicable. Once written notification of the disease has been received, also the F2508A form must be sent if it is an occupational disease. Your book is showing you F2508IA for injuries, and for diseases, F2508A. If by chance anything this specific was to come, just go to Google and check it, right? Because this level of detail then is not really examined at the certificate level. To know the difference between IE form and A form and stuff. They just wanted to know that it have a form in laboratory, and the form is F2508 anyway, right? So the rest of this, so I think we did that page there. So the rest of this, we needed to go back now, and this is page 24, and you needed to see, right? So again, welcome to those who just coming in. Just trying to clean my slides here, right? That remember that the whole thing has been recorded. So I do have 3 other recordings being converted. All my morning recordings, I guess because of the weather, I've been running a bit slow, right? But I have 3 other, well, just to make it the 3rd recording, so I have to see how those recordings go. Zoom does that automatically. We don't do anything, but it converts one at a time. So as soon as this is recorded, again, I hope I will try to put this up. I have my YouTube channel up here. So as soon as it's converted, it takes some time because from here it has to go to YouTube. YouTube has to process it. And then from there, once it is cleared, it will be shown on the YouTube channel anyway, hopefully by this evening, right? If not early tomorrow morning. All right, so what I was saying, we needed to go back to page 24 because you needed to have an idea of what are the injuries. That's what you see on page 24 now. What are the injuries? What are the diseases? What are the dangerous occurrences that are reportable? Right, so again, it's open book. So I mean, it can't get easier than that. If they ask you for like, what are some reportable injuries? I was thinking maybe with this new exam, they might come out and ask you, they may give any case scenario that the worker broke his leg. So like by reading that now, then you would probably have a fracture. You're supposed to know, okay, well then that is a reportable injury, right? Remember the means of examining now is different. Before they will ask you like, identify 4 or 5 reportable injuries because it was more memory based. Now it's not memory based anymore, but it's to interpret what you're reading, right? Anyway, all of these are reportable injuries. I would not read all, I would just touch some. I'm seeing here bone fractures, except to fingers, thumbs, and toes, same thing in your book, I guess. Amputation, all of these are reportable. Dislocation of shoulder, hip, knee, or spine. Temporary or permanent loss of sight. Unconsciousness, I jump down to the last one, right? Unconsciousness caused by asphyxia or exposure to hazardous substances. Dangerous occurrences in your book is on page 25. But I have them here, and we would have covered some dangerous occurrences in our first lesson, right? So some dangerous occurrences that are reportable: collapse, overturning, or failure of lifting equipment, explosion, collapse of pipework, plant equipment in contact with power lines. Going on to the last 2, right? Overturning of tankers with dangerous substances, the malfunction of a breathing apparatus while in use or during tests before use. You can just imagine that these are already dangerous occurrences, right? Like your respirator then fail then, right? The CBAR, right? Not the same respirator, but the breathing apparatus failed, right? But maybe it was under test condition. That is a dangerous occurrence, right? Remember, for those who missed lesson 1, a dangerous occurrence, right, is a near miss. So you have to know here that nobody died and nothing here. A dangerous occurrence is a near miss. So when we say collapse or any one of this now, you have to know that nothing happened, right? So it may be the collapse of a excavator that happened this week in Trinidad, but we have to change the story and say nobody was injured for it to be a dangerous occurrence. If somebody died, well, it's a fatality. It's not a dangerous occurrence, right? Plant or equipment in contact with power lines, but we have to say here that these power lines were de-energized, right? You cannot say if it had power in it and somebody got shocked. Well, of course, you know, that would have been almost a fatality as well. It's only like, that's more than 220 volts, right? And so 220 volts could cause heart attacks, right? So for this to be a dangerous occurrence, you have to say plant equipment in contact with power lines, or maybe the power lines were de-energized. It was isolated, but it is a dangerous occurrence because remember what a dangerous occurrence is. It's one in which you could have lost your life if the circumstances had been any other way. So please remember that, right? That when we say collapse of a pipe work, explosion, you have to remember that you have to say that nobody was injured. Otherwise, it would not be a dangerous occurrence. It would end up being an accident. And I mean, God forbid a fatality, because if dangerous occurrences are, materialize, they say it results in death, right? So that's on page 25. You see some examples of the collapse, overturning, or failure of a load-bearing part of lift. Hopefully nobody was there again. Plant or equipment coming in contact with overhead power lines that were de-energized. You have to be able to say that, right? So the one we left out was what? Diseases. So occupational diseases, all of these, if they happen, you have to report it to the HSE, and yes, you have to report it to OSHA in Trinidad, which not a lot of people do, right? It's a bit raining in San Fernando. The rain has started back again, right? So some occupational diseases that are reportable: occupational dermatitis, skin cancer, certain poisoning, occupational asthma, farmer's lung, asbestosis, leptospirosis, hepatitis, tuberculosis, legionellosis, occupational cancer, repetitive strain injuries, vibration white finger. There are really no detailed questions. If you do not know what they are, you can research it on Google, right? But you notice it's not part of this course anyway. Some of it will be in your second textbook. Farmer's lung may be the only new one here that we are not too accustomed to it in the Caribbean anymore. This is a condition that happens when they cut, what's what I'm looking here for? Grass, vegetation for making hay, right? I don't know if you know that hay is not something that is grown. Hay is something that is made, right? Wherever you see hay, right? If you remember those Three Little Pigs story, hay is made in a machine called a hay maker, right? When they cut the grass, the fields, the vegetation, whatever have you, it's fed into a machine and it comes out as bales of hay. If you see a bale of hay didn't grow in the field, right? It's made, and it's very common in the UK. Anyway, the point is that when the machines pass over the cut grass, there's a machine, by the way, that sucks it up and stacks it. It's called a hay maker anyway. When that happens, though, some bits remain on the field, and what they say, especially in the cold countries, those bits of grass and shrubs and vegetation could normally stay there in the cold climate, especially during winter, and it could develop into, it could have like bacteria there then festering on it. And as the farmers, as they walk through their fields, if it is, spring or whatever have you, the spores, right? Or those if it is, I guess, a fungi, it would be a spore. But if it is even, let's say, a bacteria, could get stirred up a bit, and then you could inhale that, resulting in what is called farmer's lungs, right? So hence the connection there to the farmers anyway, because those are the mostly associated persons. Or if you have field trips to your farm and whatever have you anyway, right? So notifying fatalities where death results within 1 year of a notifiable work accident or condition, the person's employer must still notify the relevant, well, the HSE in writing, right? So if you notify the HSE about, let's go back maybe to like somebody who came down with occupational asthma, but then they died then a year afterwards, or within a year, you are required to notify the health and safety executive that following that initial report, the person did take a turn for the worse and the person passed away, right? So this is one for reporting flammable gases. The last thing I want to stress on, you can read that one for yourself. I don't think these things, it's the same thing about reporting to the HSE, right? So the last thing is, yeah, the last page, page 26. Somewhere in the lesson, they made note of some things could be recorded but not reported. It's right on the table there. Some things could be recorded but not reported. So what I want you to know here is that they have a book for that, right? If you look at page 26, it's called record keeping, but the book is like a legal book. Look at right here. It's like a law that specifies you have to use that book, right? So records must be kept of all the RIDDOR events. Records must be kept for about 3 years. But it have a law that require them the use of this book. The point I'm trying to say here, now this thing up here, this was, oh, the slide wouldn't allow me to go here, but this picture I have up here was a picture of the front page of the book, right? Which you can actually click on it. I think it would carry you to the HSE website that is actually selling that book, right? So the thing about this book they're talking about, when you say record, it wasn't like in a notebook than a copybook, as we say in Trinidad, right? It wasn't like in a copybook a recording that somebody came down with maybe some injury that was classed as reportable injuries, but the person got 7 days, but it was still like not a major injury. So maybe it was a dislocation of a joint, but the doctors pop it back in place, right? But still the worker got 7 days now, maybe to ease the pain or whatever have you, right? So what I'm saying is that that's a case where something may be recorded, but you don't have to really do the report, right? Because it's not life-threatening in any way then. So there's a law for it. And the point I'm trying to say is that there is a book for it in the UK. And this is the name of the book here, right? I'm looking to see if your notes made mention of it, but this is it here. The name of the book is BI 510, right? I'm not seeing it in your book, but that's the name of the book. That is the name of the book, and this is a picture of the front page of the book. They may have changed the front page now. I mean, this is a relatively last year-ish kind of picture I have there. I don't know if they changed the front page of the book, but once you put BI 510 on Google, you're supposed to get the book. Now, you might wonder why I'm telling you this, right? Because supposing they ask for exam, which I doubt they will do, suppose they ask, like, what are 10 things to record following an accident? A good thing to do, well, you can look at page 27, but a good thing to do is just download a view of the book, right? But what are 10 things to record following an accident? Some of you know that already. You record the name of the person, the location where the accident happened, who was involved, name of the witnesses, type of injury, was the person, given first aid, were they taken to a medical facility? So some of that you could do from the top of your head, but I'm just saying that there is a proper book for them, BI 510, that's called the, the accident reporting book, right? Last point here, remember I said there's a law for it. The law was that the Social Security Claims and Payment Regulations. Last point, a tick box is included on each page of the accident book, asking whether the injured person gave his or her consent to the disclosure of the information contained in the record to the safety rep. That's because they have another law in the UK known as the Data Protection Act. Plus they also have another law called the Equality Act 2010 that requires that if you're given information in this kind of technological area anyway, you must consent. If you remember our school form, your registration form, we had asked you for that too, as NEBOSH had asked you to give your consent to share information with NEBOSH, right? And with that said, the NEBOSH National General Certificate, teaching anyway, for the open book exam has come to an end, right? So as much as, I think in November, it didn't seem as if it was going to end, but, this is the last lesson there, right? Just in case anybody who is in our class, because I told I'm going to put this on YouTube. If you're in our class in Trinidad, remember next week, Saturday, we have a class just to focus on some exam techniques anyway. So I guess what I can do, I can stop the recording because anything as you see will just be for our local benefit.